You're gonna mess me up, Luna. Oh, snap.
'49er faithful ride with me. Red and gold blooded to the day I die. Reppin' Niner gang and it's all I bleed. Racking up dubs in my Levi jeans. And we run over the league with our whole team. Be that number one seed cause we ballin'. Putting in that work early in the morning. Super Bowl team and now these haters salty. Rockin' Zenny shades to the championship shift. That Nick Bosa drop him hard like a hissy. The Jimmy Ward intercept him with a pick six. Like Debo, we gon' knock him like a brick. The trade lands play action to a drop back. When the bits coming quick, the old line gon' block that. RPO with Kyle Hughes, Juice. With Mitchell and George Kittle, can't nobody stop that. Stand behind Kyle Shanny all the way. It's like a game of chess when he go to play.
Videos courtesy of NFL.com. What's up, everybody? Welcome to IE Sports Radio. I'm Niners Jess, along with Ty Alston, Maddie B, and your girl Bex. We are the East Coast Red and Gold. What's going on, guys?
Not much. Doing good. How's everybody doing out there?
Hanging in there.
Seems like most of the light poles in Philadelphia are still intact. So that's good news for everybody involved.
All that wasted grease.
I feel sorry for
When's the
the
loser
cars.
parade? When's the loser parade? Aren't they having a loser parade? Did I read that?
I don't know how that works.
I don't either.
They were
but I was a
turning
little
cars
surprised.
over before the game even started.
No,
Makes sense.
I'm not surprised. It's really
Yeah,
weird. Like,
yeah. Literally
Like
not
that-
surprised at all. Like, no, sounds about right for them.
I mean, it's like that one Super Bowl that they won. Like, it took 3 calls that
Thank you,
went
Brian.
completely in the worst possible direction of what they should have based on the rules and everything we know about the rules to make that happen for them. So, I
Yeah.
mean, if they're happy with their asterisk Super Bowl, I guess that's fine. They could have had another one, but they coughed it up. So, good for them.
Did I also read they are losing both their offensive and defensive coordinators to head coach
So that-
positions?
They
So
have
that means-
already
One of which
lost
is
them.
going to Arizona, right?
Yeah, it's going to
they
be a bunch
are
of
already
quality
gone.
control. A bunch of quality control folks are about to get promotions. Is really what
Yep.
you're going to see
Right.
in a bunch of different places, right? You're going to see a bunch of different staffs getting cannibalized again. This is going to be the second wave, the post Super Bowl wave, and then some stuff's going to settle, and then you're going to find some people. You're going to find some teams having consultants that you wouldn't expect to have that would even be available in the consultants roles. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, but really interesting how that they really get plucked. They really did. They lost their offensive and defensive coordinators, and it's not easy to replace. So we'll see if they improve or not. But they get a long list of free agents they got to re-sign. They're going to have to get Hurts a new deal soon, I believe. I don't think he's signed a new deal yet.
No,
That's
I don't
coming.
think so.
yeah.
So that's if I remember correctly, he's a second rounder, so it's not that 5th-year deal. Like he's just got 4 years, and you're like, that's a wrap. So they got to get something going with him pretty quick, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
So yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle for them. And when you look at the NFC this year coming up, depending on quarterback roulette, you don't know who you're going to be going up against. But it looks like we're going to have 3 other teams in our division. One is Seattle, and the other 2 are rebuilding, right? So if you can go 5-1, 6-0 in the division again, you're guaranteed at least one home playoff game.
Yeah, we're sitting good in the division.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're another team that has a long list of free agents to work on.
We are, but I think it's one of those deals where like some guys are going to price themselves out. They're going to find some other people to go in.
Mhm.
I really like to talk about that later too. Like there's definitely some trench work that needs to be done, and you got to figure out how to do it at some sort of price point, and who's doing what and what's going where and who's getting restructured. But they can open up a lot of cap space this year if they really want to.
Oh yeah.
So what do we have to do to keep up with Kansas City and get over that hump?
Well, one, if we were in that Super Bowl, we would have beat them. I just honestly feel that way. Our defense is much stronger than it was, at the beginning of the season, early in the season, I should say. I think we picked up on some things that they did. And oddly enough, Mahomes' passing wasn't the reason why they won that game.
Right.
They got back into it by running the game. I mean, running the ball. Eric Bieniemy consistently started calling runs, which if we had a quarterback for the Eagles game and just ran the ball, we would have did the same thing to them. But anyway, so and remember that Chiefs game we played them, that was a 5-point game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
we right there. Had we
everything
not
went to
shot
hell in a
ourselves in the
handbasket.
foot, we shot ourselves in the foot most of that game.
We did.
Had we played clean, played discipline, like we saw down the line, for the rest of the season, that game would have had a totally different outcome. And I think we'd have been right there. So we're not far from them. I think just getting consistent on the line, that's it. Getting that consistent pressure. I think you saw in the fourth quarter, Kansas City started getting consistent pressure at the end. We need to do the same. And controlling the offensive line. It's all about the O-line. And those are our two biggest holes heading into this off season right now. Our two biggest question marks, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to restock there?
Yeah, I agree. And even that Kansas City game, I think we were also down like seven or 8 guys, I believe.
And that was the first week. Like McCaffrey had 15 plays that he knew.
Yeah.
Right.
And remember, Trent Williams was coming back from injury. Mooney Ward was coming back from injury. Yeah. It was a total nightmare.
Ward really shouldn't have
Oscar-wise
played and
in terms of
admitted that he shouldn't have played and actually set himself back by playing in that game a little bit. I think he was honestly bothered by that the rest of the year because he was gangbusters before that, and he was good after that. He had some really good moments, but he still had some other moments where he got beat, and it's like you could tell he just wasn't 100%, and it really started with that game and coming back from that game because it was a big challenge game. It was a benchmark game, and everybody wanted to be there for it. You get it, but at the same time, it's like,
still
didn't really win the battle, and you didn't win the war either,
so.
Yeah, I definitely think if we played Kansas City in the Super Bowl, it would have been a whole different game because of the level of injury and just not having a complete team. Whereas at the end of the season, if we had a healthy Brock Purdy going in there, that team was lights out. We would have definitely won.
Yeah.
1 week from today, he goes under the knife.
That's a huge day. That's a huge day in 49er history, right? If they go in there and everything's good and it's just it's just what they expect it to be, then he should be all set for the season. If it's anything else, it's the Trey Lance show. So what does that do? What does that change, if anything? It's just change how the team is. Does he win his job back? Does he crush it? Do they let him develop on the job, or does he play well enough to win, and then as soon as Purdy's back, is he healthy? Like that sets up a whole other bunch of garbage down the road. But next week is a big day. One of those fixed points in time, I think.
It can't get here fast enough.
like that Joe Montana elbow surgery, right? Like that.
Exactly.
They thought that was just some random whatever when it happened. Like they just thought his arm was a little sore, and he was out for 18 months. I guess he could have come back sooner, but Seifert put him on ice for a while. But
sure did.
Yeah, the more I see that,
go ahead.
The more I see that, the more I wonder if the reason George Seifert is in the Hall of Fame is because he's handling Joe Montana.
Yeah, because Joe had a lot of fans and supporters on that voting committee. And it's like, oh, you kept our guy out on purpose.
Yeah,
you didn't want to let him throw in his final game in San Francisco. Yeah, George Seifert, nope. Next vote. Yep.
The strands eventually draw together. It's like, you finally understand what grandma's knitting at some point.
Yeah.
Grandma's knitting.
But I agree with Ty. The offensive line, defensive line, just like last year, like we took care of the secondary with Mooney Ward and then special teams. I feel hopefully that this year their emphasis is going to be on both sides of the ball on the lines, because we definitely need it there for sure. I did. As far as the quarterback position, I mean, I know we have to wait till next week to see, about Brock Purdy and, see with that. But can Trey lead us to where we need to go? I mean, this is our window's open. This is a Super Bowl caliber team. Can he fit the bill? Can he do that?
The question is, there's two questions. One, what game plan and what will his job be? What task is he given to be able to lead us, right? What play script is he given? What is he given for a game plan each week? That's going to be really key in terms of leading. And then second is going to be, can he stay healthy? Period. Those are the two things. That's the case. Yes. If they give him the room to succeed, yes.
Well, if Kyle didn't run him up the middle.
I don't mean that.
As you saw in the opening montage,
I don't.
he was running right up the middle.
Yes, and I actually
into linemen and linebackers.
I wanted to say something and I forgot, but yes, the
question is he fast enough to run to the outside to outrun those guys? Right? We don't know. Maybe he has to run up the middle. One of the best plays the Tennessee Titans ever had was Steve McNair in the shotgun running up the middle for a wide open draw because everybody would spread out. Right? Like, Steve McNair is going to take this. Like, he was the original Wildcat. Like, boom, I'm going right up the middle. Every 2-point conversion. It was just like clockwork.
But hold on. No. Look at the play you said. They would spread people out, get the advantage in the box.
Why are we packing it in?
We are out there in goal line formation, letting everyone know a run is coming, and it's right up the gut, not outside. Right. It's not a read option, just right into the heart of the defense.
Telegraph. Why?
That
recipe
to me for disaster.
That is not a recipe for success, right? Exactly. That is not setting someone up to lead. That, to me, that's setting up someone so that they don't turn the ball over in the defense and the running game wins it. And by the way, if you looked at the numbers for the running game this year, there were some running stats, but do you feel like this year's team was as good of a running team as last year's team was? I don't. McCaffrey was a better running back, clearly, but like the actual overall running game, I didn't expect them to go. They never had that we rushed it 45, 50 times down your throat sort of game against the Rams, right? Like
I agree.
It seemed like it was tilted a lot more passy, particularly when Purdy took over. But even when Garoppolo was there, it seemed a little bit more passy than normal.
I think injury played into that. Not having.
Just say,
go ahead, Rebecca.
Quite a few injuries with the running core there that probably influenced how we play called to some extent.
Yeah. And to answer your question, Jess, can Trey lead us? I'm going to say no. We don't ask the quarterback to lead us. The 2022 49ers was led by Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner. That's who led the team. All those names, all those players. It was not the quarterback. The quarterback was there to help the team along. Trey was there to help the team along. Jimmy was there to help the team along. Brock was there to help the team along. When Josh Johnson came in, hey, just help this team fight through this game. And he did that for a quarter.
He did not help the team along.
When he fumbled, he did not. He hurt the team when he fumbled.
That was the end of the season, right there.
Up to that point, he was helping the team along, and we got back in the game. We ran the ball hard, do some short passes, and that's it. That was our formula. Let the defense do its thing and don't mess it up on offense. So he doesn't have to. He just has to play his role, not try to do too much. And like we say for all of our quarterbacks, don't mess it up. The other guys will take care of the rest. This is a very simple formula.
To what Bryant's saying below, I feel like that's on both sides of the ball right now since 2019. I don't think the run defense has been as good, and I don't think the run offense has been as like stout. Just as it's missing that level of nasty, I think, on both sides. Consistent nasty, right? That you know you're going to need. Unless, of course, you can just do the push play now on the quarterback sneak. Because if you can do that with having 4 people behind the quarterback, like, you'll be fine. You should never not make 4th and 1 at that point.
Jimmy Garoppolo never needed a push, by the way.
He did.
James Arthur, the greatest QB sneaker of all time.
Him and Tom Brady. You know who he learned that?
Not giving James
Arthur. Where he
his
learned that from,
flowers.
though. He learned that from Tom Brady.
Tom Brady would pick up a half yard. JG is miles ahead of him.
He was. That's true.
Look at him.
He's younger and better looking. Shout out to James Arthur Garoppolo.
Wow, look at that.
Wow.
What's today? We're writing this down right
I know,
now.
right? February 15th.
2023. You paid.
Get some tears in my eyes. That's my quarterback.
Wasn't expecting it. Wasn't expecting it.
No, but back to the running game point. 2019. Once again, we talked about this all season. 2019, it was running back by committee. We had 4 different backs that we would put into the game, fresh legs, and just go right at you. Outside, inside, you think we're going one way, we're going another.
Because you had the offensive line that did the job so that those guys could fit into the style, right? You don't get that. You don't get that confidence with the current stack. Like you're kind of.
But wait, think about the past 2 years with the injuries we've had and stuff. Kyle has been very reluctant to play his young guys, and it's basically been one guy toting the rock. You know, in 2020 it was Elijah Mitchell. This year it was Christian McCaffrey. You know, and think about earlier in the year when Mitchell got hurt. It's like, okay, who's going to run the ball? All right, it's Jeff Wilson Jr. for a few plays here, a few plays there, but it wasn't that consistent attack.
Right.
And we never saw Jordan Mason at all.
I wish we saw more of him.
Until late in the year, like mid-season.
And that's really what I'm asking. To me, this is a chicken or the egg philosophy. Do they not have faith in the running backs, or is the offensive line not blocking enough for them to be successful? Or the offensive line's blocking successfully, they just don't know what they're doing. Like it's got to be one or the other. Or we've just decided to hell with it. We're not going to run the ball because we don't have the running backs that we want back there. But that's what I don't get. Like it's not just the DeForest Buckner thing. It's like, to me, DeForest Buckner and Joe Staley, those guys have that same sort of mentality on each line, right? I'm not saying you have to go out and replace those guys or bring those guys back or anything like that. But you need to, when you're bringing it in, you got to bring it back. And in this case, you got to spread it out a little bit. And I feel like the offensive line isn't quite as deep as in nasty running wise as what we would want. And I think it's the same thing on the defensive line too, in terms of pass rush and blocking. Like that's what we've got to shore up draft wise. That's what we've got to shore up free agent wise, trade wise. However, it's going to be adjusted and done. Like it's got to be fortified. I think if anything, this game, the Super Bowl that we would just watch shows you that you need that line. It doesn't matter. And both teams had it. Like they both could do the things that they needed to do for the most part. But the biggest difference was Philadelphia didn't change the game plan at all. They didn't change anything. They were just like, no, we'll get confused on the goal line twice, right? We'll not guard the running back. Like that's like that's a coaching thing, right? In terms of talent and scheme, most of the year it was defense. It was toughness on both lines, and both teams were able to run the ball. Both teams were able to stop the run. So To me, that's the bar that you've got to reach at this point. You've got to get your interior as strong as those two teams. You get that going while keeping everything else you've got going, you're miles better. I mean, frankly, if they had a quarterback, maybe we're not even having this conversation right now. But looking at what we've got going in, what we've got coming out, I think that's where the improvements need to be made.
Sirianni was too busy giving the finger and smirking at everybody on the sideline.
Talk about an unlikable coach, man.
Yeah. Oh my God.
He made Sean McVay look humble.
You know what I mean? Made him look like a church boy. Like, come on.
Oh my goodness. Like ever since that the one that went viral, I think when they were playing the Giants, and he's like, going like this at the camera, like shaking his head at the camera and stuff. I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
He's got some John Tortorella to him. Like, if you're a hockey fan, he's just got that little, he's got that vibe. That little, yeah, he sure does.
Yeah, definitely not
sure
a fan.
Does.
But speaking of coaches, so I saw something this week where, hey, Kyle Shanahan is not perfect. Imagine that.
What?
Right?
Who said
and
that?
He needs to do better. And
At what?
At coaching.
Like specifically?
I swear. Like he needs to do better. And what can he improve on? Now, last time I checked, no one is perfect.
Yeah. Especially at coaching.
Right.
Yeah.
It's amazing, right? I have to stop going on Twitter and stuff.
What part of town are you going to? Like,
apparently the part where I forgot to mute.
Yeah.
Like
she made a left turn at Albuquerque or something.
As soon as you see that stuff, you just need to block that. Like,
but you know what? Like it bothers me because it's like, and then it goes to the airwaves, like it goes on like podcasts and stuff like that. And it's like, I know that it's the off season and it's like, like there's certain things that you're not going to have like too much to talk about. You know what I mean? But you don't have to start pulling stuff that like, okay, what does Kyle Shanahan have to do better? Like I don't understand.
Because that's what they do. That's the way now. Like
it's the blame game.
It's this 24/7 ticker mentality, right? It all started with the bottom line on ESPN2. I believe that's where the decline of society started to happen. We needed everything right then, right? And if we didn't have it right then, if we didn't have the latest update of whatever at that point, what in the actual hell is wrong with us? We used to live in a world where you used to have to call a phone number to get scores for college football games or to find out what time it was.
Games. Yeah.
Like, back in those olden days, right? So as soon as we got that bottom line on ESPN2 that told us what the score was of each game, as opposed to having to wait till 11:20 at night to get the post local news game scores, if you didn't have any sort of anything like that, like that era of instancy happened, and that's where we're at right now. That and that's what's caused this. You still need to look. Your bills in February are just as important as your bills in September. So you got to figure out a way to keep those page views up. And the thing is, the page views that you get count the same whether your viewer is knowledgeable or your viewer is unknowledgeable. So if you don't go too deep into it or give any sort of why, you can pretty much say whatever you want, and people will be like, well, I was listening to their show, and that's what they said, and it was online, so it must be legitimate, right? Like, they can just say whatever they want. Whatever they want at any point in time, and then just spread it however they want. And if it catches, all the other sites are going to fall in line because the other site found it. It's the same thing in local media. If one TV station does a story, another TV station will come back in and do different stories with those people at the same time so that they're getting some of the same secondary hits off of it. or they're content creating and they're taking it from that and they're putting it on their site and using it as their own. They don't care what it is. It just creates views. It creates topics. It creates, even if it's the dumbest thing anybody's ever heard and they're making fun of it, they're still out there spreading it, right? They're showing you that there's literally, yes, hot takes are us.
Exactly.
It's just that
it's content
it's just,
to fill
it's
up a
there
24-hour cycle.
Come on in. Everybody's
Nail on
welcome.
the
No
head.
matter how stupid your take is, we want you here. That's what it is. That's basically what it boils down to. And it's hatred of different players for whatever reason, right? Because they lost a 14 parlay and they're mad that somebody fumbled. I don't know. Like, it's silly to me. Like, but that's the world we live in now, and everybody wants to do this and get paid. So I guess we should create some stupid hot takes and get, lambasted for it. But that's not really how I want to do business.
You know what though? Like the poor guy, like 3 out of the 4 years, we've been right there.
Yeah.
And
that's so damn hard.
Right. And it's
right.
So, and you know what? And I think he honestly says that every press conference, like, this is the NFL. It's really hard, to get where we need to go. Like, it's really hard to get to the NFC Championship game. It's hard to get to the Super Bowl. I mean, do these people not remember Jim Tomsula, Chip Kelly,
2-win season,
2016?
Hello. Yeah,
these are people that are
Mike
still
Singletary.
They hold Jim Harbaugh in the highest regard because Jim Harbaugh got them to the title game, and it's okay. But Kyle Shanahan got us to a Super Bowl and lost it. He, throw him to the curb. But Jim Harbaugh, we love Jim Harbaugh. Why can't we get more guys like Jim Harbaugh? They're this,
we have one. People still aren't happy.
Harbaugh did the same thing.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Or
he's beloved, and Kyle Shanahan could go into a forest, a burning forest, and save a herd of baby deer. And they'd be like, geez, if he'd been there 10 minutes earlier, he could have saved another herd. What the hell's his problem? I don't know what Kyle can do at this point to satisfy.
He should have been there earlier to put out the fire.
He should have been there.
He could have grabbed the bear.
Not throw that match in the forest, right?
Exactly. Had he been coaching
right,
they wouldn't have thrown the match.
No. This is the thing. Should Kyle Shanahan have been a coach, or should he have been the new Smokey Bear? Because if he had, this whole thing wouldn't have happened, right?
Yep.
God's sake. It's just, I don't get it. They've just decided that's what it is.
That's out firefighting.
Correct. That's exactly what it is. It's just whatever happened. It's whatever he had. It's just like the Devontae Smith thing. By the way, did anyone else notice that Fox was really late with that helmet catch?
Yes.
With Goddard?
Yeah.
Who on the Fox video crew is an Eagles fan and keeps delaying those plays? The only reason that thing got challenged was because there was a penalty. That's the second time in 2 weeks that Fox has done that. I find that extremely interesting. Not a single person talked about that. It was blatant. It was blatant both times.
Yeah.
This week was even more blatant because they didn't delay it quite as long, but they still delayed it enough to where, if the penalty hadn't happened, there wouldn't have been a challenge.
Yep.
And they got that play wrong anyways, which blew me away. They're like, oh, I think that's there. No, I think he's still moving it. I don't, just throws on the line.
We try, Bryant.
We like to listen, let people speak, let them have their say. If we disagree, we disagree, we talk about it. But if not, we agree and keep going.
Yeah, but we don't.
We also understand that everybody watches a game from a different perspective, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
but
everybody sees
but if you're
different
gonna sit
things.
here, if you're and going back to, because this really bothers me.
Going
of
back
course.
to the Kyle thing.
But going back to the Kyle thing, if you're going to sit here and say, well, he's not perfect, he has things to work on, what do you think he should improve? Hello? Really? Because every year, even these players, right? You sit them down, in the off season, like, oh, what do you think you got to improve in the, in the new season? All right. That's like something that you ask, and they'll either tell you or they'll keep it to themselves because it's personal.
Right.
But just to say that, like the guy is probably still working because we had coaches leave.
Yeah.
So he's not in Mexico quite yet.
Yeah.
And he's still trying to do what's best for this organization. And we're going to sit back and criticize the man for not being perfect.
Well, I guess it's a wrap for all of us.
My rant is done, but I'm just saying.
I think we just need to shut it all down because none of us are
Yeah.
perfect. So except for this other person, who's
Right.
amazing.
Well, and I
He's
think it
putting
goes
that out
back
there.
to what we always follow up and say: who are you going to get instead? If you don't like Kyle, what's out there? I mean, go take a look around.
Sean Payton's off the market. If that's who you're thinking, I don't know why, but like if that's who you're thinking, what are you going to bring Tony Dungy or Bill Cowher out of retirement? Like, I mean, it better be somebody who has multiple Lombardi trophies to make me say, okay, right? Like,
No. They want Jim Harbaugh to come back.
And what has he won to come back?
I mean,
wasn't
the Big Ten
first year, Michigan wasn't this the first year he made the playoffs in college?
I think so.
Yeah,
and got bumped.
No, he's made it. No, they made it twice. They made it. They've made it to the playoffs twice, but they didn't do the things.
So wait, what was twice in a decade?
Yeah, I was going to say it was the 2012 team, right? So I don't know.
Wow, it's been that long.
Yeah, exactly. 2012, 2013, 20 was and then 2011 they were in the
2012 team, right?
Yeah.
So he left it. He left after 2013.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I thought it was
10 years, exactly.
11, 12, 13, 14.
Wow, that flew
14
by.
they went 8-8.
Okay, so not it's been 9 years,
okay.
8 or 9 years.
It's still a while.
And
he went to three. He went to 3 NFC title games and 1 Super Bowl in 4 years. Kyle Shanahan did the same thing.
Having to completely rebuild the roster at that.
Correct.
Without
let's not overlook
that
fact.
Correct.
And without tucked in sweatshirts.
Yeah.
Also
no
correct.
Or tucked in sweatshirts.
And no Tony Montana to unite the team and get everybody together, thinking about the special teams.
Harbaugh had a stacked team, and he just had to put it all together. Kyle and John.
He was whoever came into that job next that could get them united and keep them healthy was going to win. Yeah. But his name was going to bring in a good enough staff around him that they were going to improve. He was going to. That's the one thing that really surprised me about Urban Meyer, but now I understand. Like, at least Harbaugh was smart enough to let these guys go cook, right? I can't imagine that Jim Harbaugh was piddling around and calling Kaepernick's QB meetings with Alex Smith either. Like maybe helping here and there to like motivate and coach, but like in terms of X's and O's stuff, I think he's letting his guys do his job. So he kind of got it from that aspect of it. But just the rest of it probably kind of got downhill. But like he'd already provided the template for any college coach that wants to come in. Just come in, get really good coaches around the outside and get the hell out of the way. Matt Rule didn't really do that. He brought his boys in from college, is what it seemed like, and didn't really. And Kingsbury kind of did the same sort of deal, right? Like, I don't know. If I'm a young coach coming from college, I want all the veteran coaches around me that I could possibly get, right? So.
What do you guys think about Brian's comment?
Firing Mike Nolan too soon?
He was a really good defensive coordinator. I don't think they should have made him head coach. They made him head coach because his dad was the head coach.
Yeah, that was nostalgia. Sell some tickets. Remember, the team was at a very low point at that time. Mm-hmm. So you got to make some noise, try to appease the fans. That was that kind of hire.
I was a Back to the Future hire.
And you talk about a coach not being perfect. The mistakes he made. I mean, could you imagine what Twitter would say with the things Mike Nolan did? Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Chad, I want to clarify what you're saying there. I think Purdy's the guy at this point. And whether you think Purdy's better than Lance or not is not what I'm here for. What matters is I think Kyle connects and trusts Purdy more than he trusts Lance, based on the way that he calls the games for them, based on the way he reacts to them. That is a body language thing. That is an interview thing. That is just how it's seen. I think probably everybody in here probably agrees with that, right? So if next week Brock Purdy's elbow is healthy and he comes back and everything's good, I think you're going to see more from Brock Purdy. I think he's going to have one hell of a year, and I think he'll have an amazing career. But if it takes him a while to come back, you're going to have a different team. You know what I mean? That's just going to be how that is. That's going to be, he's going to call it how he decides to call it. Hopefully he calls it like he did in the second half of the Houston Texans game back in 2021. But I would love to see Trey Lance get more playing time. But if they believe that Brock Purdy's a better quarterback right now, he's not going to get that playing time. But if he's not healthy enough, then Trey Lance is going to get that playing time. So it's one of those be careful what you wish for sort of deals, right?
It all comes down next week.
It sucks to be even in this
position. And we see how it goes.
We're literally,
like I always say, though, we got two young quarterbacks who have shown flashes of brilliance. Yes, they've shown rookie mistakes as well, but I feel confident with either one going forward.
And he's younger than most of the quarterbacks in this draft that everybody's dribbling all over themselves to fucking get, right? Also, P.S., you guys hear all this stuff about the Bears trading Justin Fields?
No.
Nonsense.
The Bears are looking to, and that's like, people come out of the Senior Bowl and are coming away like, oh, I think the Bears are going to trade. Who trades for Justin Fields?
They have that high pick.
Wow. And someone within the IE Sports Radio family was telling me not too long ago that we should have picked Justin Fields. And what are we doing with Trey Lance? And my goodness. Oh, I'm gonna have to go on that. I'm gonna have to go on that app later, and
I'm telling you, I'm telling you
discuss.
right now, the quarterback roulette wheel this year may be a little bit bigger than what we think, right? Like,
well,
I don't think Lamar. I think Lamar Jackson's
Carr.
going to be in a new place next year. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be in a new place next year, whether that's a retirement park or somewhere else. So there's two right there. And
Derek Carr, obviously.
Derek Carr
We know
got
Carr.
yesterday.
I think
Obvious.
I would be stunned if Derek Carr doesn't end up in Carolina. I think him and Frank Reich are absolutely perfect for each other.
Yeah,
That's a big
I
call.
can see that.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think he's probably the best. I think if anybody is as close to a quarterback whisperer, like he got some decent numbers out of Carson Wentz before Carson Wentz fell apart. He got some decent numbers out of Matt Ryan before Matt Ryan fell apart.
Yeah.
And Matt Ryan's offensive line also fell apart, and Jonathan Taylor fell apart. So that was part of that. And then the owner completely fell apart. So
Yes, he did.
don't know. He basically had like an existential crisis, and Frank Reich paid the price for it. Frank Reich knows what he's doing. He was a good coach for a good team for a little bit, and that Carolina team isn't like what Beck said earlier. Like when Singletary took over, when Harbaugh took over for Singletary, right? That roster was underachieving and needed some better coaching, right? That was really the biggest thing they switched. They brought in a few guys like Smith came in or whatever, but like rest of the stuff that they did was pretty much coaching, and light went on. Should have won a Super Bowl.
Because
But,
McCown built that team before he got fired and went to Washington.
Yep.
That roster was put together, and what's his name came in right that same year and ended up getting GM of the year. His name's on the tip of my tongue.
Balky.
Help me out.
Balky.
Yeah.
Trent. Yeah.
Not the guy from Perfect Strangers. Okay, Balky.
That's
not
Balky.
to be confused with him. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
But
show that
yeah,
should be
he,
rebooted.
He got GM of the year that year, and it was not even his roster that he built. I was like, what?
Nope.
Drafted
I think
one
he-
guy,
That's right,
Aldon
he
Smith.
did.
That's it.
And he signed the Cowboy. That was it, right? Like those
Yeah.
were the
Yep.
two things that he did that year. There was no Patrick Willis was just as good that year as he was the year before.
Yep.
Although he'll tell you that Mike Singletary is one who made turn him into a pro, but
Yeah.
didn't really get him any playoff games. So at least till Harbaugh got there, and then it was time, right?
Yeah. Oh, the good old Trent Baalke days.
But and then you had the gap where if you'd lost Willis, well, it looked like Borland was going to come in and be that guy, and he plays a year, and then he's gone.
Decides to
Okay,
retire.
well,
Yeah.
there goes
Yeah,
that.
I would have
there
loved
goes
to
that.
see him play more.
Yes,
Right?
like he was one of those guys. There's different guys around the league that I really wished I could have seen play a hell of a lot longer, and he's right on that list. And
Yeah.
he made the best decision for him, I guess, and bless him. But him, I remember when John Frank left. John Frank was a really good tight end, and he
Yes,
left
very
early
good.
because he was going to be a doctor and didn't want to screw up his hands. So
Yep.
he kind of pre-prevented a Doctor Strange, I guess, which is nice. So I think he's got a thriving plastic surgery practice now down in Southern California. So I'm sure that's working out for him swimmingly.
So I think it was Matt Mayoko who reported that some guys in the locker room would be pissed off if Brock Purdy wasn't the starter. And George Kittle, I know they interviewed him on Radio Row before the Super Bowl, and he pretty much said, it's his job to lose, pretty much saying, that he wants Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's a thing? You think people will be pissed off if Brock Purdy's not the starter?
Let's put that in context.
Go ahead.
The players were answering that in response to all these outside media people saying the 49ers are going to sign an old quarterback to start for the team in 2023. None of them want that. Not a one. And
I don't want that either.
None of us want that. Okay,
I'm just saying, I don't want that
Let's lead
either.
off with that. None of us want that.
Yeah, but the players themselves who went out there every week
Really don't want that.
and battled with this guy and won games with him know in their hearts, had he not gotten injured, this team wins a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So we can win with him and we can grow with him. And our Super Bowl window remains open for the next 15 years. Why am I going to bring in some old quarterback that's going to play for a year and then we got to reset?
Yeah.
No, that's my guy. I've been with him a whole year. We're going with him. And I got their back on that one.
Go ahead, Becca.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Ty just said. I don't think the players want to see that kind of change and that upheaval. They've built a rapport with Purdy, and they were excited to have Purdy come in and take the reins when everybody got hurt, and because they already had a sneak preview of what he could do, and then to have that translate into winning in actual games and on the field. That just, I think the confidence just kept getting stronger and stronger as the weeks went on. And, to have someone new come in, I don't think anybody wants to see that. I think they're all like we are, fingers crossed the surgery goes well and that the timeline is 3 months. And then after 3 months, it's healed and he can start to work on rehab and be back throwing full strength in 6 months. Mm-hmm. So I think, they want that as much as we do. I don't see them really secretly wanting to bring in another quarterback to start for sure. I think they would be happy with either one of the guys, but I do think they really all seemed very pleased with playing with Purdy over, anything else. So I would agree. I don't think they want any additional quarterbacks. Do we need one as a backup? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to have somebody else.
But to jump in once again real quick.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Jess.
That's okay.
a quarterback as a backup, yeah, but to start, no. And remember all of the clips that came out after when Purdy first came in to replace Jimmy, and the games following that. You saw the players with him on the sideline, boosted him up. Hey, Brock, man, we with you. Just come in, man. We're going to fight together. You saw the clip. I think it was a clip where Dre Greenlaw was walking by Brock Purdy and telling him, hey, Brock, we got your back.
Mm-hmm.
This is a defensive guy telling an offensive guy, we got your back. Don't worry about it. This is how the players feel. And that only grew as the season went on. And now you got all these outsiders saying, well, they need to bring in some other guy to start. No. That's like someone telling me, hey, man, you got your show. Just can't make it this week. We're going to bring in some old guy to replace her for the next 2 weeks. No, you're not.
Thanks, Ty. I appreciate that.
And we got your back, Jess.
That's right. We got
I feel
your
like
back.
the three of us could still swing it,
No, you're
right?
not. Yeah.
Maybe bring a guest
No, you're
on.
not.
It's no big deal.
No, you're not. I don't care if
Appreciate
Jess
that.
has a sore throat from partying too much at work.
Right? It's the best job ever.
Exactly.
Over here drinking on the job.
No, we got her back. And that goes for all of us. Like, no, it's not going to happen.
I was listening to the NFL radio, and someone called in, and they were like joking that like we should have at least like 7 quarterbacks on the roster.
But there should be 5.
Yeah, and then another caller after that was just like, yeah, we should have 5 quarterbacks, and I'm like, yeah, like that's
One should be kept as like an assistant quarterback coach at San Jose State that can just work out every day as needed. Is just a dude, and then if something happens, like he gets called up and he's on the practice squad. There should be a development one on the practice squad, and there should be a third stringer on the active roster as well. Whether that's a Matt Ryan-y type or somebody like that, not to compete for the starting job for the love of God. Somebody there that knows the offense and can help translate things. I think that's the biggest key right now, especially if Trey Lance has to start off the season as the quarterback. Getting guys in there that can translate things or bounce questions off of. Because you're not going to have that with Jimmy Garoppolo in the locker room anymore. And it sounds like Jimmy was someone who was, that's something they could do with those guys. Both Purdy and Trey Lance said that Jimmy was, always up for doing that, which is surprising based on some of the things that other narratives that people want to put out there, right? In terms of how people are. But in this case, like, whoever that is got to have a big grasp of this system. I don't think you can just plug in another Josh Johnson journeyman guy who can just slide in and know something. It's got to be somebody who's actually been in the system before and can throw and do some things. Going back to one other thing that Ted said, if Bosa signs his extension this year, he's going to have a really low cap number, actually, based on the way they usually set those things up.
Yeah.
There's 2 or 3 different ways right now. There's 2 to 3 different avenues to create cap space. Trent Williams can restructure his deal. Christian McCaffrey can restructure his deal, which is probably going to happen based on the way everything is set up.
Yep.
George Kittle can restructure his deal. There's a lot of restructuring of deals and legitimate restructuring of deals, not just dumb restructuring of deals.
Mm-hmm.
So that can clear some things up a little bit. So when Bosa gets signed, his cap number goes way down. So this is actually the year to be able to do things. And that's why it's so damned important for Purdy's stuff to be good, because he is cost controlled for the next 3 years. It is so important for Brock Purdy to be able to take snaps and be healthy, because if you can develop this guy at that price, under $1 million for the next 3 years, holy crap, do you have an advantage over literally every other team, right? Because you're only going to have 12 million committed. And guess what? Trey Lance is probably still going to be here like Jordan Love in that scenario, not going anywhere, because he's going to know this system. And his cap hit, if you trade him on that rookie deal, I don't think it's more than what it is if you keep him. So you might as well just keep him, because yeah, fun fact, you are going to need a quarterback no matter what. You're going to need more than one. So he's not going anywhere. And it would be stupid to trade him unless somebody's going to give you the absolute hauliest of the haul. And that's not going to happen until he has a stretch of games where people are like, damn,
Right.
imagine if they put him on the market, right? So until that happens, he's here. And hopefully he doesn't have to play a ton, but if he does, hopefully he crushes it.
Ty, what do you think about Brian's comment?
Yeah, well, you if let's say we bring in a veteran like Matt Ryan, who knows the system, as everyone says, I want him to have that mentality to compete as if he was the starter, because I want him hungry, I want him ready. I don't want him just lollygagging around. None of us want that. We want a guy that's going to come in, prepare, and be ready to play. If, knock on wood, something happens to the person or persons in front of him, we want to know that he's ready to play and be hungry enough to go in and get the job done, help the team win. So I'm all for that. If whoever we bring in, you'll be hungry, come ready to compete, because you never know when your number's going to get called.
Well, I mean,
he was just as an
Apparently that
example.
was a terrible example, Ty.
Yeah.
I know, bad example, Melissa. I am sorry.
do we necessarily
We're not-
want him to compete? Have the mentality that he wants to compete for the starting job, or just be hungry enough to win and accept his role as backup?
Right.
Like, I'm going to put in the work no matter what, because I want to win and I want to succeed. But I understand I'm not the number one guy.
I want someone who's going to say every week, I'm preparing like I'm the starter.
I'm the
no
starter.
matter who
Right.
they are. That's
they
all I
should.
care about, who it is. And then
Yeah.
I actually want them to do as such. I don't know. I'm assuming Josh Johnson did all the things that he was supposed to, but maybe he did, maybe he didn't. How many legitimate snaps do you think Josh Johnson got before the NFC title game?
Not many.
Not a
Probably.
lot.
Right?
As a backup, you don't get a lot anyway.
Exactly.
It's
So-
more mental reps than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That to me is why, if you're going to have to bring somebody in here for depth, and you know that they're probably going to draft somebody or UFA somebody, right? So whoever they bring in, you hope they know the system, whoever that is. I would be opposed to having them bring back Nick Mullins to be the third QB, right? Guy knew how to do everything. You already know what his strengths and weaknesses are. So, like,
And he also had the inner brace for his UCL.
Correct.
Mhm.
Right?
Yep.
He could be that could help young Purdy, right? He might need that, right? That might be helpful for him. So I wouldn't be opposed to anything like that. It's not like he doesn't know what's going on. And these quarterbacks eventually get better over time. They don't always do stupid things. Some of them really get, like, some people Jim Plunkett their careers. They pop in and they get some winning done. Even Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, right? Like,
Ugh.
might catch lightning in a bottle with a year. Like, Steve Berline went to the Pro Bowl a couple of times. Might have won MVP one year if it wasn't for that Kurt Warner guy. You never know. You never know what you're going to catch with the quarterback in a one-year system. So the biggest thing you want, though, is depth, because at this point, you can't count on both quarterbacks staying healthy, which is absolutely gross. But going back to the one thing that you said, which I think is the biggest key to everything, yes, you want competition. If you look around the league, like go look back at Joe Montana's career, most of his best years, Steve Young was right behind him, right? Say what you want about it. Like, as much as people didn't like that quarterback controversy, Montana played the best years of his career with someone biting his heels. If you go back and look at Brady's career, some of his best seasons were when Garoppolo was behind him. He had a definite career resurgence when he was playing behind him for a little while. In fact, you could probably argue that a lot of his stuff fell off in New England because they didn't really bring in any sort of competition behind him at that point. So, yeah, it's real interesting. It's a real good point. You want to bring in competition for everybody. Everybody makes themselves better. Everybody wants to come in and prepare like a starter, but at the end of the day, you know who it is. And whether it's Lance or whether it's a healthy Purdy, like, we want one of those two to be that guy next year. We don't want anybody coming in off the street to be that guy. And the players clearly don't either, which is why they answered that poll like that.
Melissa, why not any love for Brock Purdy?
No, I don't think that's the case.
I know.
I think she just thought we were. She clearly probably thought that we were advocating for. Jacoby Brissett would be a guy that would like that, but
I would take the Jacoby Brissett.
I would
Yep.
totally. I feel like he could fit in almost any system.
Yeah.
So, like, he'd be a guy that could do it. He's good enough to win with. But is he going to want to come here and be the third QB? Right?
Oh, you never know.
Yeah, odds are you're going to play because lightning strikes this place all the time. But who wants to come here knowing the odds are they're going to be this? No matter what, they're going to be this. At best, they're going to be the second QB. They're going to have to outplay Trey Lance, right? Like, in a best case scenario, they are so much better than Trey Lance that they're like, yep, he's the guy. I just can't imagine that happening. Like, that to me is your best case scenario for this person. It's not the best case scenario for the franchise. I think if that happens, we're bleeped in the bleep. So, you don't really want that. I don't. It's going to be real interesting to see who they bring in, and if it's just a guy that they draft, or if they feel comfortable enough bringing in some sort of veteran to come in here and play behind them. But that's another interesting ingredient that's going to go into this 2023 cake mix.
What's up, Steve-O?
What's up, Steve-O? That's a good point. We could just draft a quarterback.
Right.
And have him here all season playing against our number one defense.
Is there another Brock
Building
Purdy
him up
type that
Is there another Mr.
system?
Irrelevant?
Right. It doesn't even have to be that. It could
Can
be
you
a guy that
imagine?
they
Oh, my
think
God.
knows a
No,
system,
listen.
right? Has gotten some playing time. Like, maybe they think this is the bottle,
Oh, but just a guy who comes in who will stay prepared and hungry and studies and does things right. And when his number is called, hey, just keep it simple, stupid. You got all these players around you. You're not the leader. That guy, they are. They got your back. They're going to help you along. Just go out there and execute. That's all you need.
We really will know more next Wednesday night.
Yeah, we'll know more next Wednesday. And we've been saying all
Literally-
along, fingers crossed, it is the lesser of the surgeries.
Biggest
apparently-
surgery in 49ers history.
And
No big deal.
apparently he's had like a ton of scans too.
Mhm.
And all the doctors have said the same thing, that that's exactly what he needs. So hopefully that's,
The scans can be deceiving. So
I
that's
know,
fingers
but
crossed.
you know,
You get in there and you look and there's something
I'm
next
just-
to the bone that they couldn't quite see from the scan.
Shh, don't.
It's always
mm-mm,
weird stuff.
mm-mm, Ty.
But
I'm
fingers
hoping
crossed.
that is the
Where's my
Silicon Valley.
candlestick dirt?
I know.
I'm hoping they've got some
That shit
sort
should
of
travel
Tony
with you.
Stark 3D AI, whatever, that could pull up anything that could have possibly happened. I hope they had multiple scans with multiple layers. I hope some of it was in 4K, 4D technology.
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't care.
Something.
Man, listen.
Yeah.
I need
Whatever
a
it
Star Trek
was.
tricorder scanning
I mean, he
him
had
to say exactly what's wrong.
second and
Is he-
third and fourth opinions. So I'm sure if there's consensus that they're able to see enough to come to.
I mean, multiple scans, obviously different
Yeah.
angles, whatever, and all the
Mhm.
doctors are saying the same thing, and
My concern is not the original surgery. My concern is always the second one. And you're like, what do you mean the second one?
oh,
Like the
Trey's-
one that Trey Lance had where he got to remove that screw. Gordon Hayward had the same one. He was supposed to be back for the playoffs, but now that damn screw was in the way. Like, every time there's a screw involved or any sort of hardware, it seems like there's some sort of irritation later, and then the screws are going to come out, and that's another whole thing. So that always worries me. Even when Brady tore his ACL, he had a post-op infection. They were concerned that was going to wrap him up back in 2008. So that was a long time ago too. I mean, clearly it got cleaned up, but there was some sketchy times here. So, and then the other thing that Bryant mentions here as well, yeah. If they think he needs time, I hope they give him time and don't rush him back.
I think they will, because the position is too important.
I think
It's
they
I
will
hope
too.
so.
important.
But
And
also,
you
if
have
it-
time that you don't have to rush it.
Right.
right, and and even if it's just the internal brace that they put in, it's the ramp him up at 3 months, 6 months, he's ready. Like, that's the timetable. But I think they will give him time.
Yeah. Yep, Trent Taylor and his infamous infection that kept him out so long.
How many infections? Like, always an infection,
Googling.
right? Like, there's always, just don't need it.
Yeah.
Don't
Right,
need
so I
it.
have
You know
another.
who hasn't?
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
go
Go.
ahead.
Nope. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say, you know who hasn't had an infection in the last 8 years? IE Sports Radio. Okay.
Darn tootin'.
Good news there. Not a one. What they've been doing during this
Me
time
to
is
it.
bringing amazing content, ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows in major sports cities around the country. And of course, shows like this one, the East Coast Red and Gold. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on whatever video channel you watch us on. However that goes, that's your preference, and I don't want to get into that. Also, keep in mind, you can go to iesportsradio.com and you can get the Patreon link. It's got 5 different tiers on it, starting at just $5 a month. Donations get you all sorts of stuff, including shout-outs on the shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise and access to Podcaster University. You also get a chance to be featured on The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Thank you, Maddie. You beat me to it. I have a fun one for you guys.
All right.
This is on my, my daily left turns that, our Super Bowl window is closing.
No
ahead,
more or
Becca.
no less than anyone else is in the league. I mean, I think we're in great shape. Really, I mean, yes, losing D'Amico Ryans hurts in many, many ways, but I think, we found a really great option to supplement that. But I don't think our window's closing. We've got, most of the roster coming back. The key players on the roster are coming back. The coach is staying. The division is not going to, the division is not going to be, I think, a difficult place next year for us. I think we're well positioned to get back to the playoffs. And I think, somebody said it earlier, we just maybe win 8 games and we're probably going to lead the division. I think Matt, you said something like that earlier. So I think we're in good shape. I don't know. I don't see it. I think our window is wide open.
I think the window is like kind of Ted's there. I think the peak of that window is probably in the next 2 to 3 seasons, right? Mm-hmm. You've kind of got prime Trent Williams right now. You got prime George Kittle right now. You got prime Christian McCaffrey right now. You got prime Deebo Samuel right now. You got prime Brandon Ayuk right now. He's sensing a pattern here. Prime Nick Bosa right now. These aren't all guys that are falling
prime
off the
Fred
cliff.
Warner.
These aren't guys that are coming up. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Charvarius Ward, Talanoa Hufanga. Stop me. I mean, the oldest guy they've got is the kicker, and frankly, kickers can go on for forever. Like, they usually give you warning signs before they start yipping. And Robbie Gould really hasn't been yipping. Like, he had the one bad kick in Las Vegas. Right. Wow. Like, he was probably due for a bad kick in Las Vegas, and that field seems to be trash, so I'm not surprised. So, it's kind of one of those deals where, like, 2 to 3 years is probably that window, because you've got to keep all these guys together and still re-sign other people to help them in the core. So there's only so much time, but you've also got the salary cap going up. And you've got the master of the cap in Parag, right? Like, in Parag, we trust in terms of the cap. They'll figure that out. I don't think they're as bad as the Saints in that aspect, but I think if they needed to, they absolutely could do the things that they needed to do and wanted to do. So I'm not too concerned about that. But I would think kind of going all in-ish here in the next 2 to 3 years. I'm not talking like go full Rams, but if you want to up it a little bit more, maybe trade some more picks for some more folks that you know are good and can fit, maybe that works. But I think this team feels real good about its own system of drafting guys and plugging them into where they go, whether it's a year of development and bringing them in or finding out that they can hit the ground running and contribute in their first year. So I'm just going to trust the process at this point. As much as I hate to do that.
The Saints are $55 million over the cap.
Right, and they just started restructuring guys.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, yeah, we're 10 million under the cap and we've done nothing, right? So the cap Olympics over the next 2 weeks, pay very close attention to your NFL insiders over the next few weeks, because they're going to talk to you about this guy and you're going to be like, why do I care that the safety for the Jacksonville Jaguars sign this long-term deal? Well, because it means that they just freed up about $12 million to sign a guy, right? Or they're going to be able to extend somebody. Or maybe they can compete and get that little extra so that they get Mike McGlinchey, so that this team has to draft somebody to replace Mike McGlinchey, right? Or somebody like that. Or Aziz Al-Shire, right? Who's probably going to go to Houston. Like, I think to me, that's the worst kept secret in sports. Aziz Al-Shire going to Houston. Like, no way. I would like to see McCurry Ball get LB3. That would be good. He's been in the system for a year. He knows what's going on. So he played decent in spurts last year too. So
my thoughts. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say the window thing is always funny to me, because this team has showed no decline, right? It's not like we're the Rams who just threw away picks and signed guys for hire. This team is built from within, from the draft. And aside from Trent Williams and Robbie Gould, the entire core and roster is under the age of 30. The most of the core is in their mid-20s. And I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon.
Not with this cap going up the way it is.
Plus, we got young and upcoming quarterbacks that can develop and get better and better. So I don't see how the window is closing. It's wide open, and it's going to be wide open for a while. We talked about this last week, I think, where, right now it's kind of like mirroring the 80s and 90s a bit, where we are perennial contenders every year.
Win the division.
And you don't, for the Super Bowl.
Just win your division. If you win your division, the cards will probably fall the way you need it, right?
So that window thing is another hot take that people just want to talk about. It makes no sense. It was
another left turn that I took.
Yeah.
I mean, that Patriots window was clearly 2 to 3 years, because that was, and then the 49ers window before that was 2 to 3 year window, right? From 81 to 94. That was just 2 to 3 year window, right? No, I mean, in every one of those dynasties, whether it was the Cowboys, Steelers in the 70s, the Packers of the 60s, the 49ers, the Patriots, those two teams had to remake themselves multiple times. Like, the first team, there was only, 5 guys that won 4? So there was nobody that was there for all 5. So every one of those teams had to remake themselves over and over again. So, yeah, the window for one core might be going out in 2 to 3 years, but with the way this team drafts, particularly in the later rounds, who's to say they can't do the same thing again in 2 to 3 years, right? And OPS, they're not expected to come in off the street and do everything perfectly right away, because we're not really drafting starters right now. We're drafting development guys, or guys that maybe you hit a lottery ticket on and they turn out to be better than somebody you have, which is great. So instead, if you get a guy like an Aaron Banks or Sam Womack who gets a year in the system, then they crush it next year. Look more at next year's draft, last year's draft, and last year's practice guys. The Poe kid, right? Maybe you see a little bit more of him next year. They clearly think a little bit of him, right? They thought he did really well in practice stuff this year. So, they tend to develop their own guys a little bit. They just don't develop at the rate that we expect them to develop because every one of these guys has a different path and a different program, and maybe they're seen in different ways by this team. They know what role they want them to fill and when they want them to fill it, I think, which is really the big key.
Yeah, you stole what I was going to say. Look how we draft players and stash them. Right?
Mhm.
We did that with Aaron Banks. We had to play him out of necessity for a bit last year. But after that, he was just stashed and put in the background. Go develop. Right? This year he comes out like a gangbuster. Like
He's a
that's
big question
kinda-
mark at the
that's
beginning of the
kinda-
year, right?
That's because based on what he did last year
Correct.
and people not seeing him. And of course, the talking heads got to come up with their talking points. Oh, why did we waste that pick? He's a bust. Blah, blah, blah. The guy played, one game and a few snaps in another game. He's a bust. Why
This
did we
guy's
do
not
that?
Tristan Wirfs. How is he not
You know what
Tristan
I mean?
Wirfs? Right? Like
And
he's
then
not
and
Quinn
then we stash
Miniers.
him.
Like right.
We
Like
stash him,
that's
develop him, put him in there, let him work out in the offseason with Trent Williams, put him next to him, and he has a good year.
you don't think Spencer
that's kinda
Burford's
what
going to
we
develop
do.
that same way this year, right?
Exactly.
Like,
He's got a year under
expect
his
that.
belt. He's going to probably work out in the offseason with Trent Williams again. Jason Poe's
Mhm.
going to probably go out and work out with him
Mhm.
again. Now next year, they can elevate their game and take it to another level. That's kind of what this team does.
And I'm guessing either Brundle or Brunskill, maybe both, is back next year. If Brundle's back, that really keeps the continuity of the center position key. So, and I don't think he's going to be a super expensive free agent. I don't think teams are going to be clamoring to dump money at a 31-year-old center. And
Neither
he
one
fits
of
in the
them.
system
No, I don't
pretty
think
well.
so.
Yeah.
So,
Even Brunskill too. I don't
Yeah.
think so.
yeah.
Neither one of them.
But
I
yeah,
expect them to draft a
our,
couple of guys on the offensive line. I expect them to draft a couple of guys on the defensive line.
mhm. I think free agency too. I think defensive line wise. But yeah, our Super Bowl window isn't closing. That's my thoughts on the matter.
I think as long
Agreed.
as I think as long as current ownership is in charge of this team, there's going to be some down years, but here and there. But I don't think you're going to have a stretch like you had in the 2000s and in the 70s again for a long time.
Yeah. Well, Melissa had a good question here. Who do you think Wilkes will improve most? Hufanga, Lenore, Thomas, Womack?
I'm going to say Hufanga because I think he's going to help eliminate those bad plays that occasionally Hufanga still gives up from just being, over aggressive or reading something wrong. I think he's going to give him some more of those older Jedi to younger Padawan tricks to snuff some of that stuff out. I think Steve Wilkes is the perfect guy right now to take care of that, because that Chris Kachurik can take care of the defensive line, right?
Mhm.
The linebacker is going to be taken care of. But right now, that secondary, they're going to need to be leaned on for a little bit this year, at least early, until that defensive line gets up to where they need it to be, right? So to me, having Steve Wilkes there with that defensive backs background, and also getting Unlin out of there to give them another voice, I think is going to really pay dividends with all those guys. I think that's really going to help Bambry Thomas too. I think his confidence is going to come back. Hopefully he can stay healthy too.
I'm gonna say Lenore. He's a little shaky this year. But then towards the end he really came into his own, and I think that continues to go up. So I'm gonna say Diamador Lenore. And going back to Melissa's comment about Marcelino McCrary Ball, I'm very excited for him. Not only is he a nice guy, he frequents the lobby a lot in the player hotel, but
Where Jess hangs out.
yes, where I hang out. But he did really well during preseason, and I'm excited for him. Go ahead, Becca.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask if you thought we would also re-sign Gibson, given the relationship with Hufanga. because it seemed like he developed a lot through that relationship with Tayshaun Gibson. And I was wondering, because I think we only signed him for a 1-year deal last year, and whether or not we re-sign him again this year.
I have the full list of the ones I think they're going to sign.
I think Gibson was meddling with
Gibson
retirement.
First. Yes.
I'm not
we have to
sure if he came to, any, decision, but I could see them re-signing him.
Right.
Because I do think that also helped with Hufunga's development, but I think we'll also help progress that too. But I was going to agree with you, Jess, on Lenore. I think he already had developed nicely over the course of the year, and I think having a Steve Wilkes is going to really help level that up, consistency with his game.
Yeah, if Gibson, we have to see, that's another off-season question mark that we play a waiting game on. Does he retire or does he stay? If he decides to play another year or two, I'm pretty sure they'll be open to signing him and welcome him back, because he was good and he's great for Hufunga's development.
He pushed Jimmy Ward to the bench with his play.
Yeah, Wilkes can just hang on and develop these young guys and get them ready for the future, because our entire secondary is like under 25. You talk about a window. They're all under 25, all ready to develop and just get better and better. So
but a secondary this young since Dwight Hicks was back there.
Yep.
But if you look at that and look at that team, like Ward only had to come back and play nickel because Kyle, I guess, said he was going to sit the bench because Gibson was playing so well. Yeah. So I'd hate to see Gibson say, I'm going to retire after this, right? Like, clearly you've got some run in you, and he's going to have that spot, and he knows what he's doing out there. I think the guys they end up going with, I think him and Mosley come back in the secondary. I think Manuel Mosley's going to come back. I don't think somebody's going to snatch him up with that deal. I think it's going to be really kind of one of those when you prove it deals. I think Robbie comes back. I think Brendel and Brunskill comes back. And I think Jordan Willis and Hassan Ridgeway come back. I think those are the guys that will come back. I think everybody else is gone.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that's a good number of names. Yeah.
And it's also a number of names that I don't think they're going to break the bank. I don't think any of these guys is going to be.
No, they'll be cheap deals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be more than $5.5 million, right? With probably option years. I can't imagine they're going to be.
Yeah.
But they're going to fit and they're going to do the things they want to do. Yeah, Houston. Yeah, Melissa. Yeah, if Aziz El-Shire doesn't sign in Houston, I'll be stunned. Absolutely stunned. A real tight end too would be great too, but I think that's more of a draft thing. Because
but I
there's
mean,
not really a ton of. Who's a good tight end out there right now?
Gesicki from Miami.
Can't block.
He's decent.
Can't block. Can't block a lick. He's kind of somebody described him to me once. A scout described him to me once as a fat wide receiver. Right? Not that he's fat. Right? But and I thought, I was like, what?
Well then,
this is a rugged guy, but he looks like he should be able to block and squat a little bit more, but he's more of a finesse tight end, which is why he struggled in that system. So he wasn't really that hot in the 49ers system last year that was played in Miami. I can't imagine he's going to come here and just tear it up all of a sudden, because it's not like they're going to scheme to get Mike Gesicki the ball.
Yeah,
Dawson Knox is going to get starter money somewhere. If somebody comes in here to be a tight end too, I just can't imagine they're gonna do anything. And I don't think anybody's going to challenge a healthy Kittle. So you have to find these guys like Tyler Croft, right? That used to be starters but got banged up, and now they're just wanting to be in the league because they had some talent. Those Dallas Clarkey types. You know what I mean? They're not going to be out there on short yardage situations, but they can catch the ball, right? But you're not going to have a Gronkowski-Hernandez situation here. You're not going to have that. So it's probably going to be a draft guy, because clearly Ross Dwelly and Charlie Warner ain't it.
There's who's the one from Green Bay? Robert Tunyon? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see him if he's a
He's
2,
good.
but like I said, I can't imagine he's going to be. I can't imagine he's going to be cheap, right? Evan Ingram's going to be a free agent this year too, And Kittle's, you're not gonna go out there and find anybody as Kittle. I mean, they found, and look at where they found Kittle in the 5th round, I believe. So, who's the Iowa? Is there an Iowa tight end in the draft this year? Let's just draft another
Yeah, I
Iowa.
know, right?
tight end. I
Yeah.
think that's what
We
Yeah,
better go
they're
check
pumping
the
them
Iowa
out.
team.
George was saying that, like tight ends, there was another position too that he said that everybody's, they're really good in Iowa, even Iowa State, because they were talking about
That was
how
another
Brock
thing, too.
Purdy was Iowa State.
What if Brock Purdy had a tight end who's graduating this year that they really like, right? Warner was
Came out
he was
already.
given a shot in Atlanta and he dropped it all over the field. That's what I remember about Charlie Warner. Like,
Got that one pass, Stonehenge.
and that was a critical game-changing play. And unfortunately, when you're given a chance to make that play and you don't, they don't go to you again. And they didn't go to him again the rest of the year. There's no Evan Ingram, exactly. None of those guys are going to come in, and they're all going to demand top money. So I think you're looking at the draft, and you better hope you get somebody really good in the draft. I just don't see anybody else coming in here that's going to crush it. You know what I mean?
No.
That's not going to keep you from being able to get somebody else that you really, really need. There's only so many balls to go around anyway. What you really want at the tight end 2 spot is a really good blocker. And again, Ross, the tight end position was not really the blocking position. And if they believed in Warner, I think you wouldn't have seen as much of Tyler Kroft.
And
last
clearly
year.
that's the case because Tyler
Right.
Kroft.
Mhm.
So
He had a lot of run last year for a guy that really didn't do much. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they did that. So I couldn't agree with you more, Melissa, but
Yes,
him
it
and
was
Ray in
miserable.
that game both clanked it, right? It took them a little bit to get Ray back into the offense. They didn't start giving him the ball again until Debo got hurt. Sometimes when you get into the doghouse, that's just how it is. Ayuk got into the doghouse last year, and he worked his way out of it. Sometimes you get into it, you don't get out of it.
Last year? Yeah, last year.
It was last year.
Ayuk balled out in Atlanta. Everybody
Oh, yeah.
blames him for that one deep ball that he didn't catch. It was thrown behind him. It was a bad throw. Other than that, he balled out. But everybody else had a terrible game.
I was going to say,
too
it
much
was
fun at the
miserable
Greenbrier.
there watching it live, that's for sure.
Yeah.
The Warner and McLeod drops in that game to me were the
Well,
two that were
some of you didn't sit in the sun.
right.
You didn't even sit.
Some of us only used the seats
I did
at the beginning of the game and then moved because we didn't want
you
to
had
die.
to burn and watch a bad game.
That was awful.
I went and stood at the end zone by the one restaurant. I was like, I'm not sitting over there in that.
It was horrific.
Definitely caught some rays that game. All right, so
I
we
don't know what happened
definitely-
with Jimmy Ward
Go
and
ahead.
Kyle. That's another story I'd like to hear someday. What happened with Jimmy Ward and Kyle?
Do you
'Cause
think
I
he'll
don't
be
think
back?
Jimmy's
I
coming
don't
back.
think so.
No, he'll be in Houston next year or New York, someplace like that. Wherever there's a
Man.
40 or Miami, one of those three places. He'll be in one of those 3 places.
Look,
Yeah, I
we
don't think
need
he's
a
back.
cover safety, a guy that can
Mhm.
help on the back end. That's not
Correct.
his game.
No,
He's an enforcer. He's great in short yardage. He loves to hit people, but a safety, you just need back there to do some hitting, but to break up passes.
Mhm.
When is the last time you saw Jimmy Ward had a great PBU? Helped with coverage over the top. It doesn't happen.
Nope.
It doesn't happen. Now Gibson, you saw Gibson get out of position at times, but he did a lot of helping this year, and that's what we needed. That's why Jimmy Ward did not get his spot back when he was healthy. And Kyle was like, "Hey man, you play nickel. I need you down there in the box." You know.
That's what made Burton Hanks good, right? He could cover up on the other side. You had Tim McDonald, who's
Yep.
one of the most underrated 49ers acquisitions of all
Yep.
time. When you go back to that 94 team, everybody talks about Dion, but the way they had built that defense previously and also allowed Merton Hanks to move to free safety,
Yep.
change that secondary completely, because Merton Hanks being able to play free safety reminded me a lot when Devin McCourty made that move from cornerback to safety. Kind of the same deal. Like, he really hit his stride when he went over to play safety. Like, that was his that's what he should have been playing the whole time. And it was perfect for him. And he was always seemed to be around a loose ball, and that's what you want for a free safety.
Yeah.
Like, the loose ball just finds him. Eric Davis was great as that second corner, and if he hadn't been able to play that second corner, like, they would have been in trouble. If they hadn't signed Dion, Toy Cook would have been the starter that year. And Toy Cook was a great nickelback, but he would not have been good in that title game because Michael Irvin would have bodied the hell out of him.
Yep.
No doubt.
Well, there's definitely going to be much more to talk about with free agency coming, the draft.
Indeed.
Next Wednesday, Brock Purdy's surgery. Hope that goes well. Anybody have anything else?
Sage. I'm going to special order some sage for Brock's surgery, I think.
You've been saying that you're going to order it, so you might as well order it now.
I got to do it now. For Brock's surgery, I think we have to. I think we should probably do it and, like, have a whole, like...
We'll just do, like, a whole sage burning.
Someone needs to create some sort of goodwill.
All right, we'll do that. Well, the surgery will probably be done by the time we go on Wednesday night.
True.
So at that point we're praying against the second surgery, right? We want no second surgery. That screw's going to fit
do it
fine.
Both days.
Yeah.
Okay. No irritation. Whatever we got to do. Right?
Pre and post.
I don't want to hear those things. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. There you go. Anything else, guys?
No. Go back and watch old games. I'm getting some really 1984-y vibes about this season coming up. So maybe start off with your old YouTube games. 84 was such a great year. I'm getting a really 84 vibe about this year. At the beginning of the 84 season, everybody thought the Bears were going to win the Super Bowl. Kind of going back, they thought it was going to be Bears-Raiders. That's what most people were picking that year. It turned out to be the 49ers and the Dolphins, of course. And there were a lot of different similarities between a tough loss to an NFC East opponent on some terrible calls. There's a lot of consistency between that 1983 NFC title game and then, of course, that big loss in the Meadowlands back in early '87. Like, those two kind of remind me. And then each year they came back out and won a Super Bowl. But '84 was the one I decided to go back to. They start the year off with a win at Detroit, and then they have a Monday Night Football game against Washington. So definitely something to be at there. I don't know what a Discord is, but if somebody likes that, I hope they enjoy it. I'm such an old man. I don't know. I don't know. Got nothing.
All right, guys. Well, it is time for our hurry up offense and the 2-minute warning.
I did not update it. So, wait, that's the wrong one. Jesus Christ. It's too many.
You had it, though. It was
Ty, you know this is coming every year.
I clicked the wrong thing. Okay.
Delay a game.
So, my thing is the off season. Don't panic. Don't listen to people. Trust the process. Right? Last year, everyone was freaking out about the offensive line. And look how well they played this year. This year, there's questions about the offensive line, and people are freaking out again. Trust the process. These are very smart football people who've been doing this for a long time, and I have confidence they'll get it right. So take a deep breath and trust it.
Go ahead, Maddie.
Yeah, trust the process. I really like that idea. They've got scouts at all these things, whether it's Senior Bowl, Northwest Bowls, Shrine Bowls, Smoky Bowls, whatever it is, right? Whatever, like, Cinnamon Toast Crunch Bowls, whatever they've got it. Right? So they're going to find the people you need to plug in and develop. And make the moves from there. Look around. If you're looking around for like free agency stuff, look for guys that used to play in Steve Wilkes' system. Look for guys that played in Kyle's system before, and look for guys that are fourth year, fifth year that maybe were good high draft picks with another team, like a Cleveland or a place like that. Remember Wilkes coached there for a little while, and maybe they're not going to get their fifth year option picked up. Sometimes those guys end up being on the market and get swapped. So sometimes you can really catch some guys out of that too. So be on the lookout, and remember, it's not official until it's official.
Well, I'm so glad that my Wi-Fi was okay today. But trust the Shanna plan. Trust the process. Just trust everything. We got this. And go Niners.
Hugs to the Kittles. They had a really difficult story they shared this week. Look, I think we're going to crush it in free agency, and good luck to Brock Purdy and his surgery. We got a lot to look forward to. The window's wide open. The Niners are going to be just fine. Go Niners.
Good luck, Brock.
We believe in you, Brock Purdy, surgeon. We believe in you.
Yes.
Yes, Dr. Meister.
Okay, everybody. See you next week. Thanks for tuning in.
See you next week.
And of course, for the upstart 49ers, they're 6 yards away from Pontiac. 3rd and 3.
We'll see a pickup sometime on the right side, possibly.
Montana looking, throwing in the end zone.